The right to vote is a fundamental pillar of democracy, ensuring that the people have a voice in choosing their leaders and shaping the policies that govern their lives. In the United States, the electorate, the body of citizens eligible to vote, plays a crucial role in determining the outcome of elections at all levels, from local municipalities to the presidency. However, the question of who can vote has been a contentious and evolving issue throughout American history. Firstly, it is essential to define the electorate and understand its significance. The electorate consists of all citizens who meet the legal requirements to cast a ballot in an election. These requirements vary from state to state, but generally include being a U.S. citizen, meeting a minimum age requirement, usually 18 years old, and being a legal resident of the state and locality in which they wish to vote. Historically, the composition of the electorate has been shaped by various amendments to the U.S. Constitution and legislation that have expanded or restricted voting rights. The 15th Amendment, ratified in 1870, prohibited the denial of voting rights based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. The 19th Amendment, ratified in 1920, extended the right to vote to women. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 further protected the rights of racial minorities and prohibited discriminatory voting practices. Despite these milestones, certain segments of the population, such as convicted felons and individuals deemed mentally incompetent, may still face restrictions on their voting rights in some states. Additionally, the issue of voter registration has been a subject of ongoing debate, with some advocating for automatic registration and others favoring more stringent requirements. Once an individual is deemed eligible to vote and has registered, the next step is to participate in the voting process. This process typically begins with identifying the designated polling place or precinct where a voter must cast their ballot. Polling places are physical locations, often schools, community centers, or government buildings, where voters can exercise their right to vote on election day. Precincts are geographic areas within a county or municipality that determine where a voter must go to cast their ballot based on their residential address. In recent years, the traditional method of in-person voting at polling places on election day has been complemented by alternative voting methods, such as absentee mail-in ballots and early voting. Absentee ballots allow voters to cast their votes by mail, often due to circumstances that prevent them from voting in person on election day. Early voting periods, available in many states, enable voters to cast their ballots at designated locations before election day, providing increased flexibility and accessibility. Regardless of the voting method, the ballot remains the tangible manifestation of a voter's choices. Ballots typically include various sections for different elected offices and ballot measures, such as propositions or referendums. Voters must carefully read and understand the instructions on the ballot to ensure their votes are properly recorded and counted. Once the polls have closed and the voting process is complete, election officials begin the crucial task of counting and reporting the votes, also known as the returns. These returns are closely monitored and analyzed to determine the winners of each race and gauge the overall sentiment of the electorate. Exit polls, conducted by surveying voters as they leave polling places, provide valuable insights into voter preferences and motivations. While not always accurate predictors of final results, exit polls can offer early indications of potential outcomes and help identify demographic trends in voting patterns. Voter turnout, the percentage of eligible voters who actually cast ballots, is a critical factor in determining the representativeness and legitimacy of election outcomes. Low voter turnout, often attributed to factors such as apathy, disillusionment, or practical barriers to voting, can skew results and fail to reflect the true will of the electorate. Conversely, high voter turnout is generally viewed as a positive indicator of an engaged and participatory electorate, enhancing the credibility and legitimacy of the elected officials and policies that emerge from the electoral process. Throughout American history, the composition and participation of the electorate have played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's political landscape. Landmark events, such as the Civil Rights Movement and the women's suffrage movement, have expanded the electorate and brought greater representation and inclusivity to the democratic process. However, ongoing debates surrounding issues like voter suppression, gerrymandering, and campaign finance reform highlight the continual challenges in ensuring that every eligible citizen has equal access to the ballot box and that the electorate truly reflects the diversity of the American people. As citizens and participants in the democratic process, it is crucial to stay informed about the evolving nature of voting rights, the mechanisms of the electoral system, and the factors that influence voter participation. By exercising our right to vote and engaging in thoughtful discourse, we can contribute to a more representative and responsive government that serves the interests of all segments of the electorate. In a democratic society, elections are the cornerstone of the political process, enabling citizens to have a voice in choosing their representatives and shaping the policies that affect their lives. Election campaigns play a crucial role in this process, serving as a platform for candidates to present their vision, engage with voters, and compete for support. Understanding direct democracy processes. Direct democracy refers to processes that allow citizens to participate directly in the legislative process, bypassing elected representatives. One such process is the initiative, which enables citizens to propose and vote on new laws or constitutional amendments. Initiatives can be initiated at the state or local level, with a certain number of signatures required to place the proposal on the ballot. For example, in California, citizens can initiate state laws or constitutional amendments through the initiative process. Another form of direct democracy is the proposition, which is a proposed law or constitutional amendment that is placed on the ballot by the state legislature or other governing body. Propositions differ from initiatives in that they originate from elected officials rather than citizens. Many states and localities use propositions to address various policy issues, ranging from tax measures to social reforms. A referendum is a direct vote by citizens on a specific issue or law, often initiated by the government or legislature. Referendums can be used to approve or reject proposed laws, constitutional amendments, or other measures. For instance, in 2012, Colorado held a referendum to legalize the recreational use of marijuana, which ultimately passed. Finally, the recall is a process that allows voters to remove an elected official from office before the end of their term. Recall elections are typically initiated by citizens through a petition process and require a majority vote to succeed. Notable examples of recall elections include the successful recall of California Governor Gray Davis in 2003 and the unsuccessful recall attempt against Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker in 2012. The Electoral College system. While direct democracy processes allow citizens to directly influence legislation, the election of the President of the United States is governed by the Electoral College system. The Electoral College is a unique system in which each state is allocated a number of electors based on its representation in Congress. During a presidential election, voters in each state are effectively voting for a slate of electors, pledged to support their preferred candidate. The Electoral College is composed of 538 electors, with each state's number of electors equal to its total representation in the U.S. Senate, 2 electors, and the U.S. House of Representatives, based on population. After the general election, the electors from each state cast their votes for the candidate who won the popular vote in their respective state. The role of electors is crucial in the Electoral College system. Electors are typically chosen by political parties in each state and are expected to vote for their party's nominee. However, there have been instances of faithless electors who have voted against the popular vote in their state, although such actions are rare and often face legal consequences. Most states follow a winner-take-all system, where the candidate who wins the popular vote in that state receives all of its electoral votes. However, Maine and Nebraska use a district system, where 2 electoral votes are awarded based on the statewide popular vote, and the remaining electoral votes are allocated based on the popular vote in each congressional district. The Electoral College system has been the subject of ongoing debate and criticism, with some arguing that it undermines the principle of one person, one vote, and that the popular vote should determine the winner of presidential elections. Proponents of the system argue that it protects the interests of smaller states and promotes a more balanced representation of diverse regions and interests. Campaigns and strategies. Election campaigns are intricate and multifaceted endeavors, with strategies and tactics varying based on the level of government and the specific race. In presidential elections, campaigns often focus heavily on swing states or battleground states, where the outcome is perceived as highly competitive and could potentially sway the Electoral College result. Strategies may include hosting rallies, extensive advertising campaigns, and aggressive fundraising efforts to gain an edge in these crucial states. Congressional and state-level election campaigns, while sharing some similarities with presidential races, often employ different strategies tailored to their respective constituencies. Local campaign efforts may emphasize grassroots organizing, community outreach, and targeted messaging based on regional or district-specific issues. Political parties and interest groups play a significant role in election campaigns, often endorsing and supporting candidates who align with their ideologies and policy positions. These endorsements can provide candidates with valuable resources, funding, and visibility, potentially influencing the outcome of elections. Campaign strategies also involve crafting compelling narratives and messaging that resonate with voters. Candidates and their teams carefully curate their public image, policy platforms, and messaging to appeal to different demographic groups and address pertinent issues. Effective communication and the ability to connect with voters on a personal level can be crucial in swaying public opinion and garnering support. In recent years, the rise of social media and digital platforms has transformed the landscape of election campaigns. Candidates and campaigns now leverage these tools to reach broader audiences, engage with supporters, and disseminate their messages in real time. However, the use of social media and online advertising has also given rise to concerns about the spread of misinformation, targeted advertising, and the potential influence of foreign actors on the electoral process. As we have seen, election campaigns are complex processes that involve various components, including direct democracy mechanisms, the Electoral College system, and diverse campaign strategies employed at different levels of government. Understanding these elements is crucial for citizens to make informed decisions and participate effectively in the democratic process. Funding is the lifeblood of modern political campaigns in the United States. From raising money to spending it strategically, the ability to finance a campaign operation effectively can make or break a candidate's chances of electoral success. As such, understanding the sources, regulation, and implications of campaign finance is crucial for fully appreciating the dynamics of American elections. At its core, campaign finance revolves around the need for candidates to fund various aspects of their run for office, such as advertising, staff salaries, travel expenses, and outreach efforts. Raising and spending money allows campaigns to amplify their messaging, reach more voters, and gain visibility in an increasingly competitive electoral environment. One key element to consider is the role of propaganda in campaign finance. Propaganda refers to the dissemination of information or ideas designed to promote a particular political cause or agenda. In the context of elections, propaganda can take many forms, from targeted advertising and messaging to the selective presentation of facts and figures. The funding behind campaigns enables the spread of propaganda as money is needed to produce and distribute persuasive materials across various media channels. Two important concepts in campaign finance are soft money and political action committees, PACs. Soft money historically referred to unregulated funds raised by political parties for activities like voter registration and party building efforts, rather than direct contributions to candidates. However, the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act of 2002 effectively banned the raising of soft money by national parties. PACs, on the other hand, are organizations that pool contributions from individuals, corporations, unions, or other groups, and then contribute that money to political campaigns or causes. There are different types of PACs, including those affiliated with corporations, labor unions, trade associations, or ideological groups. PACs play a significant role in campaign finance by providing a way for special interests to financially support candidates who align with their policy goals or priorities. Sources of campaign funds. Candidates and political campaigns draw funds from various sources, each subject to different regulations and limitations. One primary source is individual contributions from supporters, which are capped at certain amounts per election cycle. These individual donations can come from wealthy donors, grassroots supporters, or bundlers who aggregate smaller contributions. Political parties also contribute to campaigns, both through direct financial support and by providing resources like staff, data, and strategic guidance. Prior to the 2002 campaign finance reform, parties could raise and spend soft money on activities like voter mobilization and issue advocacy, but this practice was banned to prevent the circumvention of contribution limits. PACs, as mentioned earlier, are significant contributors to campaigns, funneling money from their members or associated organizations to favored candidates or causes. Both corporate and labor union PACs wield considerable influence through their financial backing of candidates who support their respective interests. In some cases, wealthy candidates may choose to self-fund their campaigns, either partially or entirely. This practice, while legal, has raised concerns about the potential for individuals with deep pockets to gain an unfair advantage in the electoral process. The incumbent advantage. One notable dynamic in campaign finance is the incumbent advantage enjoyed by current office holders seeking re-election. Incumbents often have a head start in fundraising due to their existing donor networks, name recognition, and access to resources that come with holding office. Challengers, on the other hand, face an uphill battle in trying to raise enough funds to mount a competitive campaign against an entrenched incumbent. This financial disadvantage can make it difficult for non-incumbents to gain the visibility and resources needed to effectively challenge a sitting office holder. To overcome the incumbent advantage, challengers may need to employ various strategies, such as tapping into grassroots support, appealing to ideological or issue-based donors, or relying on self-funding if they have the personal wealth to do so. However, the reality is that incumbents typically enjoy a significant financial edge, which can reinforce their status as frontrunners in many races. Implications and debates. The role of money in politics has long been a contentious issue, with debates raging over the influence of special interests, the potential for corruption, and the fairness of the campaign finance system. Critics argue that the current system gives disproportionate influence to wealthy individuals, corporations, and organized interest groups, potentially skewing policy outcomes in their favor. Others defend the current framework, arguing that the ability to contribute financially to campaigns is a form of protected political speech and that limiting such contributions would infringe on First Amendment rights. They also contend that disclosure requirements and contribution limits help mitigate potential corruption concerns. Another area of debate revolves around the issue of dark money, which refers to funds spent on political activities by organizations that are not required to disclose their donors. This lack of transparency has raised concerns about the potential for hidden influences and conflicts of interest in the political process. Efforts at campaign finance reform have sought to address some of these issues by imposing limits on contributions, increasing disclosure requirements, and regulating the flow of funds from various sources. However, the complex and ever evolving nature of campaign finance, coupled with differing interpretations of constitutional rights and the influence of special interests, ensures that this will remain a hotly debated topic for the foreseeable future.